Would you like to read this? This hour is being brought to you by Teldrin Allergy Capsules. Look for Teldrin, look for relief, use only as directed. Okay, now, let me get to a bunch of stuff here. First of all, last night was like exceedingly ugly. After the Bill Clinton discussion, I don't know why it became that way, but I kind of have a feeling that I kind of started it. So I apologize for last night. There are so many things going on. Number two, the New City article is out. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, no.
It's
I'll
out.
Go pick it up tomorrow.
Grab a copy of New City. It's in the city today, and it will be in the suburbs tomorrow. You can get it at Tower, all over the place. For those of you out in the suburbs, if you're online, you can do a search engine thing, and you can find the location of where New City is on the web, because they've got a website. And the article, Jim Thompson, he did a wonderful job. It's a great article. Many of you will say, well, why isn't G mentioned? Because when he did the article, G was not here. He was in Las Vegas. But it's a great article, and it's okay. I mean, you know, we came out all right, which is, I thank Brian Higglesworth, and I thank the people at New City, and get a copy. If you live out of state and you want a copy, I've said this a million times, I'll say it again, you got to call New City and find out how much it is. You got to call New City, and you got to find out how much it is to get a copy, because I don't have spare copies, and New City, they're free inside Chicago, and I think they're like $1.25 maybe in the suburbs. And I don't know how much New City will charge you outside of the Chicagoland area, but it's worth getting, it's worth seeing. So we're real proud of that. As you know, this show's been around for now 3 years, and with the exception of Mr. Feeder, who is quoted in the article, Robert Feeder of the Sun-Times, who's been exceedingly nice to us, and Eric Zorn, who we kind of have a mutual admiration society. I mean, I think this guy is just the best. He has mentioned my name like once or twice. Except for those two guys, I mean, we basically get nothing. And nobody basically knows we're alive. So we thank New City. We really do. And it's just a big thing. It's a big step. And I just thank New City a whole bunch. And what else? We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about tonight. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. We do not know, are we going to have a shootout, or what's the story here? Have you gotten through? I want to, Don and Rome are going to talk about this more tomorrow morning, but there's a story on the wire, and I want to handle this, and I want to talk about it. Tomorrow night, we're not going to have a shootout. Tomorrow night, everything you wanted to know about Whitewater, but were scared to ask. And then Friday night, Congressman Richard Durbin will be in here. We'll take your phone calls. This is off the wire service. Cubans waved anti-American banners as they celebrated May Day in their capital today, Havana. But off the coast, 3 boats of Cuban exiles staged an anti-Castro protest. The exiles sat a mile outside of Cuban seas to protest human rights abuses on the island by its communist president, Fidel Castro. They also placed wreaths, balloons, flowers in the Florida Straits to remember the 4 men shot down by the Cuban MiG fighters. You might remember that I wasn't here when this happened. I was in Paris. The men were working for the Brothers to the Rescue, which has strong connections to the FBI, and also, I suspect, the CIA, a Miami-based exile group that looks for boat refugees, and the Cubans maintained that the planes violated its airspace. And the Cubans were waving anti-American banners. Now, when I was in Havana, I did not get any kind of sense of anti-Americanism by anybody. But I thought we would call down and get on the air here a person who's been on the air here with us before, notably last summer, a good friend of mine and somebody who I haven't talked to in a long time, so why the hell not talk to him and do it on the station's dime. Arnaldo Coro from Radio Havana, Cuba. Arnaldo, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Well, I'm listening to you on 890 here, right at this moment.
So we're beaming into Havana as we speak, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about what went on in Havana today, and why were Cubans there waving anti-American banners? I mean, what was that? Because when I was there, I didn't get a sense of any anti-Americanism.
Well, essentially, what we saw here today in Havana, in the city of Havana, about 1,200,000 people go in a march through the Revolution Square in support of socialism, in support of Cuba, and against the law that was recently approved by the U.S. Congress, the so-called Helms-Burton Law. Now, people in Cuba are intelligent enough to be able to separate the Helms-Burton Law and the American people. We are aware that the Helms-Burton Law It's a decision by the right wing in the United States that has absolutely nothing to do with the good, plain American people. And of course, that is essentially what people here are aware of. We also saw many hundreds of thousands of Cubans go similarly to the Revolution Square in each of the capital of the 14 provinces. And essentially, the topic was the same. We are very much in favor of all the social gains of Cuba, of the medical care free of charge, and socialized medicine, and the education, which is also free of charge, and the right of a person to work, and the right of a person to receive social benefits at the end of his working life, regardless of how much or how little the person earned during his lifetime. That was essentially what happened here today.
All right, so what we're not being told here, or what won't be reported here, or maybe it will be reported, but you want to make clear that everybody understands this, that what was going on in Cuba today and in Havana today on May 1st, which is International Labor Day or Working Man's Day or Man and Woman's Day across the world, with the exception of the United States, I think South Africa and maybe one other country. What you're saying in Cuba is that you are not anti-American, that you are not against, for instance, people the average couple who lives in Naperville or in Lincoln Park, but what you are saying is you're against the American policy of the Helms-Burton bill, correct?
That is essentially correct. What the people here are aware of the extraordinary difference between the average working American that works very hard, that doesn't have health care, that is always with the sword very near his or her head, that he may or she may lose her job. That's something. And politicians, especially in an electoral year in Washington, you know, that's a lot of a difference. And people here, for many years, have been aware of that difference. If you come to Havana, you as a plain, good American citizen, you will find that people will talk to you, and people will show you around, and people take you to your home, to their home, and will have whatever little thing they may have, they will share with you. And because, you know, they will talk about baseball, and people will know about the major leagues, and how the Wrigley Field is going to be torn apart or not, and whether the Miami Dolphins are a better team than the Cuban Industriales.
Yeah, and are they rooting for the Bulls down there in Havana to go all the way?
I didn't understand that, Mr. Marlon.
The Bulls, our basketball team in the NBA, Michael Jordan.
Oh, that's very popular. Cuban television has a weekly, when the American basketball championship is going on, every Saturday people wait for at least 1 hour of the best game from the NBA. How do we get it? I don't know. Don't ask me. But it's on the air on the Cuban TV.
All right. I want to ask you this, too. You're talking about how people, if the average American went there, that people are not hostile, that they would talk to them. You were here last summer, and I don't think I ever really asked you this on the radio before. Your impression of Chicago and your impression of the United States, I mean, you were in Denver, you were here. What's your impression of the United States?
Well, my impression of the States is that whenever I went, people showed a lot of interest to talk to someone from Cuba that they knew was going to go back to his or her country. And everybody asked me, well, Arnie, why are you going back to Cuba? And I said, because I am a Cuban. I come here to visit the U.S. and to learn about things in the U.S. and to learn about, for example, I work as a broadcaster, as you know, at a radio station.
Sure.
And when I sat in front of a microphone at a WLS studio, where I realized that your problems as a broadcaster are very similar to mine, except perhaps you have a much better technology, your transmitter is much more beautiful and perhaps more energy efficient. But essentially, my impression is that the problems you have look very similar to the ones we have. And I had the opportunity to talk to doctors, to radio amateurs, to teachers, to people that engineers at the stations. I also had the opportunity of meeting professors at different universities. And my impression is that people in the United States, many, many, many millions of Americans, are not aware of the policies that the U.S. government have against Cuba. Many people were not aware of the more than 30-year-old U.S. embargo that includes even aspirin. And many people were not aware of the fact that there's no trade at all between the two countries, that we cannot exchange regular airmail. Do you know, Mr. Marvin, how long would it take if I write you a letter?
Yeah, it takes about anywhere from 3 to 6 months.
That is correct.
Sometimes a year.
Yes, but fortunately, at the time, sometimes there are wise decisions, and those wise decisions hold, and this is the way relations between the two countries, I think, should go. For example, because of a wise decision of both governments, we are able to talk on the telephone. We were without direct telephone service between the U.S. and Cuba for roughly about 3 years. Hurricane Andrew was in August of 1992, and it took until something like October of 1994 for us to have again telecommunication services. Unfortunately, they are holding. But why don't sit down, and this is my question, this is what I am always asked myself, why don't sit down and talk and negotiate respectfully, from equal to equal? This is the only way that the many bilateral issues between the United States and Cuba can be worked out and cleared. For example, from the U.S., more than 1,300 hours of broadcast radio is beamed to Cuba. But this is not what I'm hearing on WLS, or what I hear from WHAS in Louisville, or what I hear from a station in New York, or a station in St. Louis, KMOX. These are 1,300 hours of propaganda beamed to Cuba from stations located in the United States. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, Radio Marti principally, and also some of the some of the stations in Miami, some of the AMs that are directional.
La Voz de la, something called La Voz de la Fundación, which essentially violates the U.S. Neutrality Act.
Yeah, that's right.
A law in the United States that says that if there is no war declared by Congress, you cannot do certain things. But this station, so-called La Voz de la Fundación, is telling Cuban people on the radio every day to go out to the sugarcane fields and destroy them. And of course, you realize that Cuba has to work very hard to be able to produce sugar, which is the main commodity that brings in foreign money. That's
right. Your sugarcane harvest this year is critical. All right, I'm beginning to run out of time here, and I want to ask you one last thing. First of all, I want to tell you to tell everybody there, happy 35th anniversary to Radio Havana. And I get asked this question by email. I get people who ask this question when I go places. They always ask this, so we'll get it from the horse's mouth. The schedule for Radio Havana is about to change because we're getting into the summer season now. If people want to get in touch with you and get a schedule and want to talk to you by email, give your email address.
Okay, it's very easy. It's A Coro, the symbol for at, then Tino Red, that's Tango India, Nancy Oscar Romeo Echo Delta, dot CU, that's Charlie Uniform. So it's A Coro at TinoRed.cu, and that's at my own computer, Dinosaur 3, my home-built computer. At the radio station, it's simply Radio HC at TinoRed.cu. And by the way, we receive a lot of correspondence from the United States. And you want to know what percentage is friendly and what percentage is unfriendly?
How's that break down?
Well, that breaks down that 97% of the letters we receive from U.S. listeners are very definitely friendly letters. And only 2, maybe 3% is hate mail. People that lose their time writing hate mail to the station. But it's less than 3%.
Wow.
For the past 5 years or so, I have the statistics because we were going through the statistics at this time of the 35th anniversary of the station.
You're doing better mail-wise than I am.
You think so?
Yeah, my hate mail's a lot more than yours is.
Well, Mr. Marvin, I remember being at your studio and watching some of your shows, and I definitely listen to WLS here in Havana very often in the evening, especially in the winter time when there is less AM static noise. And, well, sometimes you are very controversial on the air, you know.
All right. Listen, I've got to go because Grant, has to do the weather and the traffic and all that stuff. But listen, just 10 seconds of personal business. Mary sends her love, and we send our love to you and Ogita and Artie Jr. and everybody there in Havana, and we hope to see you real soon.
Well, may I send my love to the good, plain American people of the many I met while in Chicago, walking on Chicago streets, dining in Chicago restaurants, working with engineers at your station. To those people that are America, the real America, my love from Havana.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, Arnie. 73 and good DX, pal.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. All right, there's Arnaldo Coro from Havana. My good friend, and I'm proud to say he's my good friend. I noticed you sat there and didn't say a word, Grant. Thank you for not embarrassing me.
Oh.
Just because there's an arrest warrant out for you in Havana.
Oh, boy.
As there are in most major capitals across this world.
What did I do in Havana?
Oh, you're wanted everywhere.
Oh, okay.
All right. And we are running late, so we got to get to tonight's topic, but I got to read this one real quick to you. You ready for this?
Here we go.
The usually bubbly Kathy Lee Gifford broke into tears Wednesday, angry that a labor leader criticized her for using then dumping a Honduran company that paid women and children 31 cents an hour to make her Kathy Lee line of clothing. Hey, rush right out and get that stuff, Kathy Lee, getting rich.
I saw the tape of
of
course, I can't miss Mary Hart and Entertainment Tonight.
What a pig.
And it was...
I started my clothing line to benefit children. Millions of dollars have gone to help children. I truly resent this man impugning my integrity. Yeah, millions of dollars. Children, they only count, right, Kathy Lee, if they're in America. But if they're in Guatemala, Honduras, or some other third world country, the hell with them. They're fodder. 31 cents, knock it down to 10, right? All right.
She's a sponge.
She is. She's a sponge and an airhead and a jerk and a stem. WLS dependable weather and traffic. Here's G.
Clear and cold for the overnight low, 35 to 40. Then sunny early tomorrow, increasing clouds throughout the day. Highs will be in the low to mid-60s, but cooler by the lake. Possibly a thunderstorm tomorrow night. It's 46 at O'Hare and Midway, 48 in DuPage County, 44 along the lake, and the humidity at 65%. Well, the inbound Calumet is heavy from 130th to just before 119th, and that's due to an accident. And they do have some lane blockage there. Now, road work is expected on the Calumet both directions at King Drive. That will start in about a half hour. Already a right lane blocked on the inbound Ryan at 71st. After midnight is when they're going to do full lane stops there. Yeah, full lane stops coming to the inbound Ryan tonight. That's going to be
Hang
some
on there,
trouble.
Grandma. Hang on. He's telephone number. Jay's the first-time caller on the Dumb Doofus show. Hello. Kaboom.
What was that?
Oh, no.
Stop letting your friends call up here, would you please?
My. Road work on the westbound side of 8094, I-65, the Broadway, the right lane blocked there. 2 right lanes will be closed at midnight. Fire going on in River Grove. Thatcher is closed down between Grand and Belmont for that structure fire. This report brought to you by Illinois.
WKNASL.
This report brought to you by Illinois Vehicle Insurance with 27 Chicagoland offices. There's an Illinois Vehicle Insurance near you. Call the auto insurance specialist at 312-201-9111.
On tonight's movie of the week, William Colby stars in the thriller Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea as the SS Titanic.
Oh, man! Was that cold?
The man hasn't even floated to the surface yet.
Hey, didn't you all know?
Oh.
Kathy Lee's precious little kids are slave laborers.
Oh, God. We're going to be in trouble for doing this.
Hey, General Patton here. You magnificent attack dog. I read your article.
Thank you. Did you like it, General?
Yes. That just cured that day of waking up feeling like I just had to slap somebody.
He sounded like him, too, didn't he?
Hey, Grant, Bugs Bunny. I thought we were going to meet at D's.
What's these?
I know.
That's it. That's it. Take it away.
The auto
A big thank you to all the Chicago area businesses who participated in our WLS Dress Down Day for the Leukemia Society of America. More than 90 companies raised money to fight this #1 child-killing disease.
Now it's your turn. Join us, Don Wade and Roma, and all the WLS crew and celebrity guests this Friday.
Broadcasting from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. at the Hyatt Regency Chicago for our annual WLS Leukemia Curathon.
So do a good deed and join us Friday, May 3rd.
1996 Curathon from WLS Talk Radio 890 AM.